On the final itself, Will, I want to say congratulations to you, because other than myself, you're the only other person that I came across on the internet, from the punditry world, the content creator world, who predicted that Man United could do it. And you, like I, was laughed at massively for suggesting it could be done last week on the show.
I did too on Straight Facts, just saying. I know you weren't here, but
I weren't on there. Sorry, mate. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but okay, yeah. So I mean, talking about the final, for me, the reason that I predicted 2-1 for Manchester United was just out of hate, right? Like, I don't really like Man City, and I thought that they needed to feel some pain. I was just hoping that you guys could get it done, and that's what you ended up doing. Now, not to kind of rain on Man United's party, because it was a great result. Ten Hag gets another trophy in his second season, so fantastic. But I think it's like this new narrative that you guys just like played really well, and I don't necessarily agree with that, because the goals that you guys scored, it came off of City mistakes, which is how we knew the game was going to go. In terms of City, were going to dominate the play. They were going to dictate everything that was happening. And I just think United, they capitalized on those chances that City gave them. But, I mean, like overall, it was a pretty entertaining game. And I just think City, they didn't seem like they really cared. Like, they weren't really putting in a good performance. They were very sluggish as well. And I think that they didn't really take United serious. That's why they went out, they partied like over the week. They were getting drunk and everything in the same week of a cup final. So, you know, I think it was a good result, but I don't really think, as you guys talked about this before, it shouldn't really change anything concerning the manager. I think he still needs to be sacked regardless of this performance. But, you know, it's a dub and it's a trophy after a terrible season.
I thought Man United did play well, and I think the tactics that Erik ten Hag had was spot on. Going into that game, man, what did he have? 4 midfielders in the middle, making sure he had his players out wide, quick counterattack, very well suited to the style that Man City play. And he was actually, if you look at it, Terry, your opponents that you had to end the season and the way that you guys played to end the season was almost like a precursor to what you guys were going to do in the final. He really did use the end of the season to prepare for that final, where
he did.
Manchester City, if you look at it, they were just trying to get win after win after win. After they won the league, they kind of thought, you know what, you guys were going to be an afterthought. And they just put out the same team. Nothing really changed. And it looked like Ten Hag had his plan put together. So you got to give him his credit. As much as you guys want to say he should be sacked and everything else, forget about that for a second. Just this one game with the players that he had available and the way that he set up for the 90 minutes, I think you guys played really well. And it was good enough, and obviously it was good enough to get you guys a trophy, and that's all you really cared about. And the second goal, I think the second goal was a bit of class for Manchester United, where the first goal you could say there was a little bit of error, they gifted that goal, but the second goal I could say, you know what, Bruno, good pass. They played it from the back to the front quite well, and Kobbie Mainoo finished it off. So you got to give them their credit. I don't think you can say
but how is okay? Wait, but how was that? So I see people say like it's a tactical masterclass, right? How else was the game going to go? You were never going to go out there and have more possession than Man City. You were never going to look better than them on the ball. So, I mean, whenever you play that team, there's only one way that the game is honestly going to go. And that's they're going to dominate possession. And you have to try to...
Doesn't that make it harder to win?
Will, that's I think that's almost the point, really. I think that when it comes to playing Man City, if you open up and try and play them at their own game, you lose. Invariably, you're going to lose because most teams don't have the quality City do, and most managers are not as good as Pep Guardiola. So you have to adjust and you have to change to a certain degree. But where I think people look at it as a tactical masterclass, and we did build up to it, we made changes, is that we had to, one thing we haven't been good at all year was being in shape consistently when we're out of possession. We have afforded so much room and so much space, but we kept it really compact. And I would say you could argue that we got the tactics right. You could argue Pep got the first half wrong because he had very little width in his team, and it made it a little bit easier for us. Doku came on, and it made it a little harder. Although that he put a couple of good passes in, I still thought AWB handled him pretty well, in my opinion. A lot of City fans saying he was cooking. I know he scored a goal, but that really should have been saved by Onana. Out of all the shots Onana faced all day, how the easiest one went in it's actually been quite... It's almost like the representation of each season, if I'm being honest. But I thought we did play well for what we are. For what we are right now in 2024, we played well. And I think it all comes down to how you interpret and view football. Of course, in terms of who moved the ball better on the pitch, who played the better football, we often go towards a team that had the most possession. But I actually thought when we had the ball, for large parts of the game, we were more decisive. Bruno Fernandes didn't get hold of the ball as much as KDB, but absolutely outshone him. He had an absolutely fantastic game when we had the ball. I thought young Kobbie Mainoo, and it's so interesting. We spoke about for large parts of the season our midfield having holes in it, and I've never once felt that it was really about the players. I've always felt it was about the shape. We're now tucking in the wide players into midfield, which means there's less room for the midfielders to cover, so they're not caught out of position. And 3 or 4 games running, we've seen in my opinion, one of the best young midfielders in the world right now. I believe it's one of the best debut seasons that a young player has ever had in Premier League. And I got cooked for saying that the other day, but I said one of the greatest, not the greatest. What Mainoo has come in and done in a dysfunctional team, how he has stood out, some of the important goals he scored. And then to have, and we all talk all the time about what somebody done in semi-finals, what somebody done in finals. We all hold those games in such high regard because of the pressure and the eyes that are upon you. Watching an 19-year-old, who's come from our academy, which is such an important part of Manchester United's history, watching him come out and be absolutely amazing and score one of the best team goals I've seen from a Man United team in many a year, because that wasn't a mistake from Man City. We won the ball from across the back and we played the ball right up to their goal, and it was a thing of beauty. But what impressed me more than all of that was actually how we reacted to conceding. Because I don't know about Staffy, but for me, when we conceded that goal, that's when I got nervous. I felt really comfortable up until then, because this season, when we've conceded one, we've often conceded a second very quickly and fallen apart. And the fact that we regrouped, we had to play for another 10, 12 minutes, and we kept ourselves together, that for me, I was really, really impressed with. And in an isolated game that we had to win to achieve a trophy, I was really impressed with Man United at the weekend. Great individual performances, topped off by our 2 teenagers, Garnacho and Mainoo. And I was really happy for those young men, especially Mainoo, because I think it's the Mainoo final, and it will always be remembered as the Kobbie Mainoo final. There are so many top players out there, and we are going to talk about Haaland in a minute, and others that have had multiple finals, multiple semi-finals, and never had a good game or always ghosted. The fact that young man Mainoo stepped up in his first ever final and performed like that against the best team in the world, against Rodri, bruv. Against Rodri. That for me, I was so happy for that young man. Really, really proud that he's obviously part of my national squad, but so proud he's part of my football team, because for me, that was one of the best young performances I've ever seen in a cup final in my life.
Paul Scholes said, he backed your point, Terry. He said
he's years of it. Yeah.
He said Kobbie Mainoo is better than me. Did he say 10 times better than me?
He's 10 times better than me when I was 19. That's a very high praise.
So that basically solidifies your point.
What I would say about that is this: that the one thing about the class of '92 that annoys me so much is they are so self-deprecating. Gary Neville does it all the time. Gary Neville talks about himself like he was a bang average footballer. He really wasn't. Like, you lot are all probably too young on here to remember him, other than Pete. He's old like me. He was brilliant. Paul Scholes, it's hard to remember. When Paul Scholes was 19, I was about 9 years old, and there's no way I remember football as clearly then as I do now. But Scholes wasn't. I wouldn't say he's 10 times a player. Scholes was ridiculous. But Mainoo is just... he is just amazing, and I was so happy for him. And to get the goal as well was just sensational. What did you make? What did you make of it, Pete? Sorry, mate, go on.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna add on to a point, because you talked about Man United's structure and that being the key. I think it was a bit of both. I think it was a bit of the players as well, and I think it linked in really well, because Man City have been doing this for a few games now. Been playing that really tight sort of formation, playing everything through the middle and leaving the wide spaces open for wing backs to come in. But the one thing that Man United had that they haven't had for so long, that they showed on Saturday, is that they had trust in each other. So within that system, they trusted each other to know that the other's going to be in that position and they could do their job, knowing that the other's going to cover, and knowing that if and when the ball breaks down, they've got the players with pace to absolutely attack Man City. And that's exactly what he did. On the counter-attack, they could not live with you at all. And I think that should give you as Man U fans some confidence going into next season, is that there seems to be a group of players there, however big or small they are, that actually trust what each other's doing, and the trust with Kobbie, Mainoo, Bruno Fernandes coming back in, the trust of having Martinez back in there, which was massive. He was fantastic in there. I thought Wan-Bissaka was fantastic in his positional play, defensive duties, and there's a level of trust there that they haven't had for a long time. And I think the tactical setup and the trust of those players, and knowing that you got those players in that could do the job, I think made the difference. You have a little bit of kryptonite to that Man City, because it's not the first time that you've played that type of football against them and got joy.
It's a great point, and this is the thing. As much as I know there are Man United fans who want to be the most dominant team in every game they play, but Pep said it after the match. He said that Man United have always been a transitional team. And under Fergie, for many years against top footballing teams, it's a Man United way of playing. We've very rarely been the team that plays the most beautiful football and is always the most dominant on the ball, especially at neutral grounds or away from home against the very best sides. And I think what's changed in the last 10 years is we haven't been able to maintain superiority over teams that spend less than us, that are not near our overarching level in history. And that's been a problem for us. But in my lifetime, when we went away to Anfield, when we went away to Newcastle, when you guys were a top team in the 90s, Arsenal definitely, we never tried to dominate the ball. We played transitional football, and it's only in the modern day era where it's kind of frowned upon. And I think there's a time and a place. Now, would I like to be better than City on the ball to dominate it? Yeah, because I think there's a sense of relaxation in that. Like when you play a match and you've got 70-80% of the ball, you're not as nervous as when the other team's got it. But yeah, I was very impressed.